Okay, so a priest, a raccoon, and a AAA game developer walk into a bar. Bartender's like, "Hey, what can I get you guys?" And the priest is like, "No, nothing for me. I'm just hanging out." The raccoon is like, or whatever noise raccoons make. And the AAA game developer is like, "Yeah, can I get 32 gigs of RAM for 1080p 60?" The bartender's like, "What?" And the developer is like, "Yeah, no, I need 32 gigs of RAM from you for 1080p 60, and also a CPU that doesn't exist." And the bartender's like, I'm not gonna do that. That sounds extremely unreasonable, actually. Are you sure this is what you're asking me right now?" And the AAA game developer is like, "Yeah, no, totally. This is 100% what I'm asking of you. I'm absolutely confident that I need 32 gigs of RAM from you and also a CPU that doesn't exist. And I'm so confident, in fact, that I'm going to keep making these demands for several days." And the bartender's like, "All right, I think it's time for you to get out of my bar because I don't think there's anything beneficial that's going to happen here." But then the AAA game developer is like, "Wait, no, hang on. Actually, this was all a mistake. I was just kidding that whole time. Haha, here's the new thing that I actually want from you." And then he slaps this down on the table and the bartender looks at it and he's like, "Wow. This is even stupider somehow." So, as any of you who saw my video a few days ago will know, the original PC spec chart for the upcoming James Bond game, which I keep wanting to call James Bond Last Light. It's James Bond First Light. I don't know why I keep wanting to call it Last Light, but that's literally the opposite of what it's called, Joe, you big stupid moron. But the PC spec chart that came out last week for the new 007 game basically just screamed out that this game is going to be a completely unoptimized mess. And I went over it in detail in this video if you want to go back and watch that. It got age restricted because I was just such a dastardly dirty little boy. Sorry, YouTube, I'll get my flarkin' language under control until I forget and I start saying dirty words again. But just as a quick little recap, this was the original spec chart that came out. It was demanding something called an Intel Core i5-9500K, which you mathematicians out there should know doesn't actually exist. It was also demanding a GTX 1660 or RX 5700 for 1080p 30 FPS, and the real kicker over here was that it wanted 32 gigs of RAM for 1080p 60 FPS. No graphic settings listed anywhere here, by the way. They don't expect you to play the game above 1080p or above 60 FPS. What graphic settings are running on that resolution? It's a secret. We can't tell you that. And the reason this spec chart sent me into such a spiral and why it was so controversial was because they left this up for several days, despite the fact that it was recommending hardware that literally did not exist, and despite the fact that there were a ton of massive contradictions in here that I went over in my previous video. They left it up for several days because this company is not a serious company. Or are they? Because the other day, they decided to post this. Quote, "We are providing today an update to the PC system requirements for 007 First Light after the community flagged some inconsistencies in an earlier version of the listing. The earlier mistake was due to an internal miscommunication, leading to an older version of the specs to be shared. After a thorough re-examination and additional testing, the recommended RAM has been corrected from 32 gigs to 16 gigs. VRAM values have been updated, and the minimum CPU line has been fixed. Additional performance targets will be shared closer to launch. We're sorry for the confusion this caused and appreciate everyone who brought it to our attention. The updated specs are now live on our store pages, and we're looking forward to sharing more of 007 First Light with you ahead of launch." Now, I am going to break down the new spec chart, which, as I mentioned a minute ago, is somehow even stupider than the last one, if you can believe that. But I first want to just rip this little message apart, because there is so much wrong here, and this does absolutely nothing to make me think you are taking this even a little bit seriously, or that this game is going to not be a completely unoptimized piece of garbage. But first, let me rip into a couple lines here. They say that the earlier mistake was due to an internal miscommunication, leading to an older version of the specs being shared. Oh, how terrible that is. But then, after additional testing, the RAM was corrected. So was it an older version of the specs? Or did you have to retest the game and magically run things on 50% of the RAM? The RAM being obviously the most controversial part because there are RAM shortages going around right now. I ask again, was this a miscommunication leading you to post an older version of the specs? Or did you have to retest the game to get new specs? If this was just an old version of the spec chart, why did you feel the need to retest the game before posting a new one? Specifically so you could conveniently cut in half the most controversial part of the old chart. That just seems awfully convenient to me. Also, the minimum CPU line has been fixed because the original chart had a CPU that didn't exist. Was that because of an older version of the chart? Or was that a mistake? That's not the kind of thing that would change if it was an older version of the chart. I don't care if an older version of the chart had a CPU that doesn't exist. The CPU that doesn't exist should never have been there in the first place. Also, if this was just because it was always an older version of the spec chart, man. We accidentally posted an old version of the spec chart. Thanks for letting us know. Why did you leave this up for several days? This chart, the one I have on screen right here, this chart was up for several days. And you expect us to believe that it was just the old version of the chart? The thing that you left up for several days was just, oops, it was the old version. And because it was the old version, we went and retested the game before posting the correct version. That kind of sounds like you didn't have the quote correct version on hand, because this was not the old version. This was legitimately what you thought was the appropriate thing to post. But you seized the opportunity to post a better version. You didn't re-optimize the game. You didn't retest the game in like 6 days, 7 days, however long the time between these two charts was. Oh, but these two charts, my goodness, I haven't shown you the second version of the chart yet, have I? Well, let's slap this monstrosity on screen and get our autopsy gloves out, because this is worse. You had the opportunity to rewrite this damn chart and make all these corrections. You have everyone's attention. Let's make everything right. Well, we're still only giving 1080p 30 and 1080p 60, no graphics settings, no ray tracing information, nothing. Literally just the resolution and an FPS target. That's all you're getting. Also, this is how you know their line about the RAM was just complete dog shit. Like, oh, we conveniently sliced the RAM requirements from 32 down to 16. This is how you know it's bullshit. They're both 16 now. Meaning, in short, this is complete bullshit. In what universe are they the exact same? You say that the original 32 gig version, we retested it, now it's down to 16. But the minimum 16 didn't change? You somehow optimized the game to such a degree that you sliced the RAM requirements in half for recommended specs, but minimum specs didn't change at all? That's literally not how RAM works. Although, to their credit, I guess you could say that the minimum and the recommended would use similar RAM or the same RAM, because the only difference between them seems to be 30 frames per second. That's all the information we have to go off of. What was the point of even posting this? 1080p 30 minimum, 1080p 60 recommended. If you're recommending I play a PC game in 2026 at $70, if you are recommending I play that game at 1080p 60, you better be giving me ultra settings. Those graphics better blow my entire head off. This is the most unhelpful spec chart I have ever seen, and it's the second run. This was the correction run, and it's somehow even dumber. And I kind of love the confidence that the studio has, because they also decided to put this up on the Steam discussions board for the game, which means the Steam community got to comment on it. Let's see what the Steam community has to say. Sledge says, sorry, but I'm still legitimately confused as to how your game will require a 13500 or 7600 CPU just for 1080p 60. T says, is this a we updated the specs because we optimized it, or a we updated the specs but it actually still requires the same hardware, we just want to pretend it will be your fault because in reality the new specs we give are not realistic? Which, that sounds right to me. Pulowski says, all they did was change the numbers. They absolutely did not optimize their game in this short a time frame, which is my whole thing. HughDog94 says, what about 4K and 2K? We're not all peasants who who the hell plays single player games in 2026 at 1080p? Get your act together. Which, exactly. What's the point of even posting this? How out of touch are you? This was so obviously just a panic from the developers over the original spec chart, and I think Rainbow Jellyfish here sums it up quite well. Quote, "It equals saying nothing. You should tell us what kind of performance 3060 Ti gets. For example, if it is for 1080p or 2K, ray tracing off, then it means nothing to me. The valid info is what system requirements your game needs for these conditions." I keep coming back to my big thesis of the last video. How unserious is AAA gaming these days? What is the point of releasing spec charts if you don't even have a clue what people are reading them for? And how out of touch can you be that you take the original chart down because of all the feedback, thanks for the feedback, and then the only things you adjust are a typo and an obviously wrong RAM requirement? You didn't give any additional information about resolution or frame rate or graphics settings, which those are the whole reasons that you should be reading these charts in the first place. You can't demand $70 for something like this and tell us nothing. This is just indicative of how unserious the AAA industry is right now. And I can't wait to hear about how this game's actually going to come out with online requirements or excessive DRM. I can't wait for that. A game that's targeting 1080p 60 will surely benefit from excessive DRM. I'm positive. Oh my goodness. So just don't buy this. Like, I'm astonished that we're even doing this. Like, what was the point of any of this? For real. Look, I'm gonna upload this video. I'm gonna go cry, and I'm gonna go play Marvel Rivals. Okay? Because Deadpool's in the game now, which means nobody's gonna play the game seriously, which is so fun. But I'm gonna play it anyways, because it's a good game. Oh my lord, okay. Oh man. I've never seen a company delete a spec chart out of feedback. And like, oh, sorry, here's the right one. And then the right one is even worse somehow. That's a new one. AAA gaming never ceases to amaze me. Okay, Doofus Club time. I'm buying all Steam controllers for myself. The Gamer127YT, Blast 1314, Mio Setsuna, Biscuit 1101, Chris Void, West of Rex, Hentai, Game with Dead People, Nate. I own 6 copies of Click 2006 on Blu-ray, Delta 169, Elite Zombie Killer 5072, Baron Von Vanaheim, Fabi Pinkus 97, Unicorn Rocco Go Japan 2005, The Return of the King, but is upside down, Billet 310 Char, AI is slop that makes me Microsoft, Kushka Doug Nixie Smile Dirty making the boys, contractually obligated to give Curbside Anthem 8 dozen eggs, Max Killer V2 Gaming, I want to squeeze Herman Smith's temples, Grimsy, It's a Hard Knock Life, Nice Dude, One Man Savage, No Pay Up, Official Dregs, Help Me, I'm losing to a Shark and Marvel Rivals, good, Vector, Vendetta, Archie, Mechanical Resident, Sick Nick, Mad Fox 94, Exchange Induction, Bear Brain, Stoke Rider, Broken Crown, Profile, Nothing. Wow, Broken Crayon, Pope Raffle, the Rat King, Jake, Spider Monkey, 1994, hashtag Biggest Diggest, Schmo from Schmannels, the Schmidt Fest, Dennis, Muskie, Big Fudge, the Thrash, the Vibin, Odd Club, the Penguin, the JoJo 6, Molt Theme, Relay Sword, Oracle, Jimmy Tops, Master Killer, Firestorm, 2056, Tom Stroll, Accent, Unknown, 806718. Got some new 850s and now they get audio orgasms daily. Edge Shadow Bear 1789, Better Fondue, Teaching, Ryzen R9 for Law, Ohio, Partial Lane 8, Voxhawk.com, Man 4372, WX Snake Guys 327, MK2 the 96E, X Tamaka Gamma, Firehouse 105, Tech Gaming Single, Slim Jim, Lord Bass II, Joe Laughs as the Moat, Gay Local Adult Without His BC Gamer, Jessica Shepard, Ricky Spire, Ricky Davies, I Love Doofus Mertz Academy, Crew the Seal Angel, I filled the Moat with Sporks, Get In, Loser, Cyrus 6711. 2 decks and 940. Joe, Vast Dennis stole my Steam Deck. You bought me. Creed Warrior 23, Max Shadow, still in the chat. Totally Insanity, Black Cobra, Face the Wall, Xeno Lover, Night of 7, ML04, Wolf of Midnight, EKW, Sequence Studios, Film McCracken, On Gaming, Treat, Brown, Thorns, Game, Mac, X, 7, Evans, Isbano 3, Skyline, for Wymaxer, Pow Pow, Donnie Weston, Gob Gonson, Rogue, Winter 19, Zach Thane, Hangman for Hire, Ellen Noble, Frost Crystal, Biogenesis, Mega Key, Scuffus Go, Ghost, Ho, Ryusagi, Raptor Tim, Honest F94, Blue Hook, Wank in the Windy, Wanky, Windy, Wank in the Wank, Mr. Techno, Squeak, Jody P, Smiggy, Wank, Jensen, Smitty, Jenkins, Jensen, McAdvertisement, Diego Garcia, Keep Against I American Eddie, Harmon Spets on the Chin, Ono Justin, Rand, Root 2 Wings, 3 Wolf 7, Retro, Wannabe Hobo, West X, JMM, SG, Veg, Groove, Nana, Kern, Alice Black, Saul, Hathens, VeggieTales, next time, VeggieTales. You know who will never let you down? You know who will never, ever let you down the way the 007 does is Larry the Cucumber. He will never let you down, ever. So why don't you fucking remember that? Okay, toodles.